Imagine you receive a phone call on an ordinary Tuesday morning. It's Walter White, a man you've known for years, a quiet chemistry teacher, a man who drives a beat-up Pontiac Aztek and smells like chalk and disappointment. He doesn't say much. He just says, "I need your help, and I promise you, it will be worth it." You say yes. You have no idea what you just agreed to. Week 1, he picks you up before sunrise. No explanation, just coordinates and a duffel bag he tells you not to open. You drive for 2 hours in silence. The kind of silence that has weight to it. The kind that tells you whatever comes next, there is no going back. When the RV stops in the middle of the desert, he opens the side door and you see it for the first time. A makeshift chemistry lab. Beakers. Tubes. Blue flame. He doesn't look at you the way Walter White used to look at people. He looks at you the way a man looks at a tool he's decided to use. "This," he says, adjusting his glasses slowly, "is where we begin. You have 2 choices in this moment. You could walk away, flag down a car on the highway, go back to your life, your ordinary, invisible life. Or you stay. You stay. Walter has rules, and he expects you to follow them without question. Rule number 1, you never ask where the money goes. Rule number 2, you never speak his name outside of this desert. Rule number 3, you do exactly what he says, exactly when he says it. Not a second late, not a single variation." You quickly learn that Walter White is not the man you thought he was. He is meticulous, obsessive, brilliant in a way that frightens you not because of what he knows, but because of how completely he has decided that none of this is wrong. In his mind, he is not a criminal. He is a scientist, a provider, a man who was robbed of everything he deserved and is simply taking it back. And somehow, standing next to him in that RV, breathing recycled desert air through a respirator, you start to believe him too. That is the most dangerous thing about Walter White. He doesn't corrupt you with threats. He corrupts you with logic. It doesn't take long before things go wrong. They always go wrong. 3 weeks in, you're parked outside a distributor's location in the South Valley when a car pulls up behind you. You don't recognize the plates. Your hands start to sweat. Walter doesn't flinch. He leans over slowly, calmly, and says, "Don't move, don't speak, and whatever you see, don't react." The car sits there for 4 minutes and 30 seconds. You count every single one. Then it drives away. You exhale. Walter doesn't. Because he already knew what that car was. He already knew who sent it. And he already had a plan. A plan he didn't think you needed to know about. That is the moment you realize something critical. Walter White doesn't have a partner. He has an employee. And if you want to survive this, you need to start thinking like he does, before he thinks for you. The money arrives quietly. No fanfare, no celebration. Just an envelope left on the passenger seat of your car one morning. You open it, count it again. It's more than you made in 6 months at your last job. And that's just the first payment. You tell yourself it's temporary, a means to an end. You'll do this for 1 more month, maybe 2, and then walk away clean. You buy new shoes, then a new phone, then you move to a better apartment. And the story you tell yourself starts to change without you noticing. It's not, "I'll stop soon." It's, "I deserve this." This is what Breaking Bad understood better than almost any other story. Evil doesn't arrive with a warning label. It arrives as relief, as solutions to real problems, as money that finally makes the math work. And by the time you see it clearly for what it is, your hands are already in it up to the elbow. Sooner or later, Walter's world expands. And when it does, you go with it, because you no longer have the option to stay behind. You meet men who don't blink when they talk about violence, men who eat lunch calmly and then give orders that end lives before dinner. The first time you're in the room with someone like that, your body understands before your mind does. Your throat closes, your peripheral vision narrows, every instinct you have screams at you to leave. But Walter shakes the man's hand, smiles, speaks with the confidence of someone who has already calculated every possible outcome and decided he will win. You watch him and you think, when did he become this? And then worse, you think, when did I? Because here is the thing about standing next to Walter White. His gravity pulls at you. The closer you are to him, the more you start to orbit his logic, his justifications, his version of reality where everything, every compromise, every line crossed is acceptable because the cause is noble. The cause is always noble. That's how it works. What the money can't fix and what Walter never warns you about is what happens to everything else. Your relationships begin to fray at the edges. You start lying reflexively, automatically, not even consciously, just a new layer of fiction that wraps around every conversation you have with people who still believe they know you. Your family notices something is different, but they can't name it. You can't sleep the same way. You wake at 3 a.m. and lie perfectly still, listening to sounds that probably mean nothing, but your body has decided to treat as threats. You become hyper-aware, hyper-vigilant, and secretly in the way that you'd never admit out loud, you start to feel alive in a way you never did before. That's the darkest part of this story. Not the danger, not the crime. The fact that part of you doesn't want to stop. Walter White isn't just a meth cook. He's a mirror. And standing next to him long enough, you start to see yourself in it. Every story like this has a moment. A single, specific moment where the door closes behind you and doesn't open again. For Walter, it was the first cook. For Jesse, it was staying. For you, it's different. It's personal. Maybe it's the first time you lie to protect the operation instead of yourself. Maybe it's the first time you feel relief, not guilt, when a threat disappears. Maybe it's the moment Walter looks at you across that RV and says, "I couldn't have done this without you." And you feel proud. That's the moment. That's where you cross. Not with a bang, not with a declaration, with a quiet sense of pride in something you should be ashamed of. Walter White knows exactly how to get you there. He's been there himself. So what happens to you in this version of the story? That depends entirely on one thing: how much of yourself you're willing to lose before you decide you've lost enough. Some people walk away. Broken, changed, but alive. They carry the weight of what they did in silence for the rest of their lives, and they consider that a fair price for survival. Some people don't walk away at all, and some very few find a way to stop Walter before Walter stops them. But none of them, not one, come out the other side the same person who got into that RV, because that's the real lesson of Breaking Bad. It was never about drugs. It was never about money. It was about a man who decided the rules didn't apply to him and the gravitational pull he had on every single person who got close enough to believe him. If you had been there, standing in that desert, in that heat, with that offer on the table, what would you have chosen? Be honest. Because the terrifying truth is, most of us would have stayed.